a 360-degree walking tour of Disneyland in Anaheim, California. I'm Chris, this is Yellow Productions. I do travel guides that are fun, informative, and entertaining. And in this video, I'm going to be taking you a walk through Disneyland in Anaheim. This is a 360-degree video, and so you can spin the video around in every direction and take a look at what is going on. This is part of my series on Disneyland. I've got more videos on Disneyland, links in the description below. I've also got more 360-degree walks, including through downtown Disney and Disney California Adventure, so you can check those out as well. Where I'm starting this video where you enter Disneyland on Main Street. Main Street is one of the most buzzing parts of Disneyland. They've got these little street cars that'll pick you up here. On my right, if you take a look to my right, is the Disneyland Railroad Station. That's a railroad that runs all around Disneyland. You can take that pretty much wherever you want to go, just on the outskirts. Not a thrill ride, but a fun ride. Great moments with Mr. Lincoln on my right, one of Disney's original old attractions. And I am here in October, so it's Disney's Halloween time. So they've got the big Mickey pumpkin, and if you sign up for Max Pass and things like that, they'll take pictures of you. Actually, I think they'll take pictures with your own devices now, which is pretty nice. You just have to get in line, and I have to not get run over by the horse. So that's the thing about doing a video, is I might not be paying attention to what's behind me. And I'm going to let the horse pass, because otherwise you're going to hear interesting bells ringing the whole time in this video. If you take a look to my left, you'll see that horse passing by. This is a ride for a busy day. It doesn't really go that far, but hey, how often do you get to ride a horse carriage down Disney's Main Street? So now this is the actual Main Street. It's kind of like an old American-looking Main Street. On my right, they've got the Main Street Cinema with Steamboat Willie, one of Disney's original cartoons. On my left, this thing that says Crystal Arcade. This is like Disneyland's main gift shop. Main Street basically doesn't have any rides. It is mostly shops, snacks, and yeah, that's it. If you want to sign up for an annual pass, if you want to sign up for like guided tours, you'll find those all on Main Street, as well as if you want to get a locker to put your stuff in for the day, you can find lockers over on the right as well. There is a Starbucks now, which I just passed by. I could smell that Starbucks. On my left is the Carnation Cafe, which makes pretty good ice cream sundaes, though I think some of the best ice cream sundaes might be over in California Adventure at the Ghirardelli ice cream store. On the left is the Penny Arcade, which I think used to have more arcades. Now it's got one of those like coin-operated fortune tellers at the front. And candy apples, things like that. The Coca-Cola Refreshment Center, which is basically another like candy snack stand type thing. So now we are exiting the main part of Main Street and kind of coming into what I would consider Disneyland's Central Plaza. In this Disneyland Central Plaza, up ahead, the direction I'm walking, and again, 360 video, so you don't need to look at me the whole time. You can look around and see things. Up ahead is the Disneyland Castle, and there's the statue of Walt Disney and Mickey that we'll get to. There's a couple big restaurants here. On my left is the Jolly Holiday Bakery Cafe, which is good for sandwiches. And then on my right is the Plaza Inn. The Plaza Inn is one of my favorite places to eat at Disneyland. They have really good fried chicken. It's also been one of the staples of Disneyland for quite a long time. And from this plaza, you can go to like Adventureland, Frontierland, Fantasyland, and Tomorrowland, all off this plaza. That's why this is one of the central plazas. So people here are lined up to take pictures with Walt Disney and Mickey, which you'll see to my right with the castle in the background. And because it's Halloween right now, they've got these various pumpkins set up for Jack Skellington's. They've got a pumpkin for every land. So Jack Skellington for New Orleans, Woody for Frontierland, Winnie the Pooh for Critter Country. So that's always pretty neat. And then we're coming up on what I would call the quintessential Disneyland picture spot. Everybody wants to get their picture right here in front of the castle. So this is it. So if you've come, you're not going on any rides immediately, the first thing you'll want to do, get your picture here before it's mobbed and you can't stand because there's so many people trying to take pictures. All right, so as I take you on this walk, I'm going to go through Tomorrowland and then we'll kind of take a lap around the park. Tomorrowland is kind of an interesting land because it was built a long time ago to envision the future of tomorrow. You know, it's one of those things where in the 60s and 70s, what did they think the year 2000 would look like? So it's one of those like retro futuristic lands. And of course, I've always wanted like my Jetsons jetpack that I've never quite gotten. But at the entrance to Tomorrowland, they've got the classic Disneyland rocket ride. It's one of these where the rockets go around, they go up and down. Good for the little kids, probably a bit small for the adults, though, you know, it's a classic. So if you've never been on it, you do have to ride the rocket ride. It's called the Astro Orbiter. As we're coming up here on my left is the line for Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, which is kind of a fun ride that you ride around in almost like a little Buzz Lightyear spaceship, and you have a gun, and you shoot at various things inside. It's pretty neat, though the Toy Story Midway Mania at California Adventure is really a better option for that kind of a ride. On my right is Star Tours, and Star Tours, it is a motion ride where you've got like a projection screen, and it takes you through kind of a Star Wars themed event without giving it away. Most rides at Disneyland have a standby line and a fast pass line. So if you want to know more about fast passes and things like that, the link in the description below. I've got a whole video about Disneyland tips that'll talk about fast passes and just various more detailed facts you might want to know to make your Disneyland trip easier. So you can check that video out when you're done watching this one. You know, one of the things that I always think about funny about Disneyland over here on the left, they've got the timeshare sales booth. It's underneath this UFO, but they've always got these little brochures selling the Disneyland, what do they call it? The Disney Vacation Club, which is sort of like Disney's version of a timeshare. You can check that out if you are so inclined. I know there's a number of people that say they really love the Disney Vacation Club, so if you are going to buy into a timeshare, I'd say probably Disney is the least of the worst in that case. So now this part right here that I'm in, I would call this the main part of Tomorrowland. Star Trader on the right, which is Tomorrowland's big gift shop. They've got this theater here right now that they're playing Pixar Short Film Festival that was originally built for Captain EO, or Captain EO was there, the Michael Jackson one. And then the biggest ride in Tomorrowland is Space Mountain, and Space Mountain's in this little mountain here. I'll come in the shade, so maybe this is easier to see. Space Mountain always has long lines. Today, right now, the wait time is 60 minutes, which I guess is fairly decent, but if you went down that tunnel, that would be the entrance to Space Mountain. And I don't think anybody wants to watch me waiting in line for an hour, so we won't do that. On my right is the Pizza Port, where you can get pizza. It smells pretty good. What do they call it? Oh, now it's called the Alien Pizza Planet. A better place. It used to be called the Pizza Port, so that's new. You know, ever since a few years ago when Disney acquired the rights to Star Wars, they've had a lot more Star Wars things around here. So up on my right, there's a couple of stormtroopers standing around posing for pictures. Obviously, the thing that people are really excited for at Disneyland is the opening of Star Wars Land, which should be coming up in the summer of 2019. So I'd imagine a lot of the Star Wars things will be moving over there. But on my right, in this big kind of 3-story round building, is the Star Wars Launch Bay, where you can go in and see more things about what the Star Wars land is going to look like. On my left, this other 3-story building, this is what used to be the People Mover. They used to have this People Mover thing that would go around Tomorrowland, take you around through the inside of some of the things like Space Mountain. That's now defunct. So that second story track that you see all around through Tomorrowland, well, doesn't do anything anymore. It's for a ride that used to be here. Now this is kind of like an odd area because it's like on the edge of Tomorrowland and Fantasyland, but what we've got here on the right is Autopia, which is like almost like a little kiddie version of go-karts, though the cars are on a racetrack. There's Finding Nemo's Submarine Voyage, which you get in these little yellow submarines, and you take them underwater to go find Nemo. Right above that, and if you look to my right, you'll see it just pulling in, is the Disneyland monorail. The Disneyland monorail basically makes 2 stops now. It makes one stop here in Disneyland in the park, and then it makes a second stop over at downtown Disney by Earl of Sandwich. So if you're staying at like the Disneyland Hotel, that might cut down some of your travel time into the park. Though the Disneyland monorail can often have wait times of like 30 minutes to get on, and so if the wait times are that long, then, well, it's probably better just to walk. I often like the monorail to take to get out of the park, especially if maybe you're going to downtown Disney for lunch. You want to check out Earl of Sandwich, which is one of my favorite places to eat. That's a good way to get there and come back midday when the lines aren't too long. So standing here, if you look to my right, you can see this is the area where the yellow submarines go underneath, and they've got some of the seagulls over there, the mine seagulls from Finding Nemo. I always like those seagulls. Now looking up to my left, this is one of Disneyland's defining attractions. It is the Matterhorn, a alpine bobsled ride that is themed after the Matterhorn mountain in Switzerland. And I used to be able to say when I did these videos that riding the Matterhorn at Disneyland is the closest I've ever come to Switzerland. But actually, about a year and a half ago, we went to Switzerland. And I will say the real mountains in Switzerland, much nicer than the Matterhorn. But the Matterhorn's pretty cool, but it is not my favorite roller coaster. It's really pretty bumpy and cramped. So I will say of all the roller coasters at Disneyland, the Matterhorn is my least favorite. Right now, it actually looks like it's boarded up for construction. So maybe they'll be improving it and make it a little less bumpy. The tracks to my right, those are the monorail tracks. So the monorail tracks comes through here. And on this Matterhorn bobsleds, they've got some things that tell you a little bit about the history, the monster on the mountain, and then on my right is where you would pick up a fast pass for the Matterhorn if it was actually running. So now we're coming into much more what one might call Fantasyland. And there's a little snack shop here on the right. That's a Swiss-themed snack shop, the Edelweiss Snacks. What do they sell in there? Jumbo turkey legs and chimichangas, which are funny because neither of those are particularly Swiss. But yes, that's what they sell in the Swiss-themed stand in front of the Matterhorn. Walking this way, walking up on a classic Disneyland ride, which is also under construction. This time of year that I'm here in October is basically Disney's construction time. You will find almost any time you come to Disneyland, things are under construction. There's just so many people come, there's no good time to close. They don't close the park, and so make sure that when you're coming, that the ride you want to go on is actually open. But just directly ahead of me, it's the It's a Small World ride, another Disneyland classic, where you ride in these boats, and the characters inside sing, "It's a small world, it's a small world after all," something like that. I am not a singer, so, it's most popular for Christmas. That's something that's interesting about Disneyland is that rides are seasonal, and they set up different things for different seasons. And so if you want to avoid the long lines, pick out the rides that maybe aren't decorated seasonally, because those will have shorter lines. Now, just ahead, and actually something I won't go into, because I'm going to turn around and walk you through Fantasyland, is Mickey's Toontown. Mickey's Toontown is up ahead underneath that tunnel. The train runs over it, and that's a really great area for the little kids to experience a lot of the cartoons. And then here over on my left, you can see a little bit more of the It's a Small World boat canals where they are actively doing construction right now. All right. And let's see, there's the Fantasyland Theater on my right, which currently they're having the show Mickey and the Magical Map. Today has 4 showings. You can hear some of that music in the background. In addition to the restaurants around Disneyland, they have a lot of popcorn carts. The popcorn cart sells popcorn for $5, or you can get it in a souvenir bucket for $9. And the different carts and the different lands have different souvenir buckets, and then it's a little cheaper to refill that popcorn. This area right here that I'm in front of It's a Small World, this is one of the best places if you want to watch the parades that go through Disneyland, because if you look over to my left, there's this elevated viewing area. That elevated viewing area, one of the best places to watch the parade, because you're kind of up and away from it, and you get a higher vantage point to see the parade. On my left, again, the monorail is going by, so you can see that Disneyland monorail. There's a few different ones that run throughout the day in different colors. The one you saw earlier was orange, and now this one is blue. This is a blue monorail. The gift shop here on the other side of the Matterhorn is Le Petit Chalet, because everything's an ice chalet in Switzerland, right? So the classic kiddie land right here is Fantasyland. They've got this ride on my right, Storybook Land canal boats. It's a boat ride with these boats you can take around. You go inside the big whale over there. But a ride that I will never go on, but I know some people love it. It's the Disneyland equivalent of the Tilt-A-Whirl. It's over here on my left. It is the Disneyland teacups. Yes, you can feel like you're in Alice in Wonderland in some teacups that are spinning around. And I see a couple people, like, they've got their phones out doing some video and things like that. I refer to this ride as the vomitorium, because that's what I'll need afterwards to expunge my stomach contents. I will need a vomitorium to put all those stomach contents in. On my left is the Mad Hatter, which it's a store that sells hats, of course. What else? Lots of hats in the Mad Hatter store. On my right is the Dumbo ride. Dumbo, the wait time is currently 30 minutes. What's really nice, most Disneyland rides, actually I think almost all of them now, almost, have signs that tell you how long the wait is. And so this Dumbo ride, it's got flying Dumbos. Yes, I'll come up a little closer to this so you can see. But it's basically like that Astro Orbiter, except what you're riding is you're riding in a Dumbo. This one is newly refurbished, so if you're coming in 2018 or 19, you can be in one of those Dumbos. On my left is the classic Disneyland Carousel. Just like any other carousel, except this one is at Disneyland, making it just that much more epic. There's a few more rides over here for kids. There's like Pinocchio's Daring Journey. One other one that I passed that I forget the name of. There's a restaurant here on the left that I'll go ahead and walk through the eating area. So I'd say there's basically like 3 types of restaurants at Disneyland. Sort of the fast casual ones like this that you go in and you order, you know, at a counter, you get a tray, and that's how you get some of your food. There's the carts that I've been walking around and seen outside. And then there's some high-end sit-down restaurants. But if you want to eat at the high-end sit-down restaurants, well, you better make a reservation ahead of time. An example is the Blue Bayou restaurant, which is one of my favorites. The Blue Bayou is in New Orleans Square. And it is the one that is inside the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Inside the Pirates of the Caribbean ride is this restaurant. My tradition is to eat there pretty much every year for my birthday, and it's just neat to really be sitting next to the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Like, it is literally in the ride, but you need to make your reservation about 60 days ahead of time. That's when reservations open for Disney's sit-down restaurants. Okay, so I'm back out here, kind of where I left from that outdoor sidewalk, now that we've taken that diversion in the restaurant, and I'm walking behind what appears to be one of the Disneyland bands. Disneyland has a lot of different bands that appear all the time. You never know when you might be, and then a band just shows up and starts playing. But of course, they are done now, and they're going in their little associates tunnel. You know, one way that Disneyland sends a lot of their stuff through the park is they have these underground tunnels, and the underground tunnels are what they use to move like trash and things like that around. So on my right, it's pretty exciting. Right now it's nothing, but this will be the entrance to the Star Wars land coming up when it opens. And this little sidewalk right now, it's kind of feels like almost like a little forgotten back path at Disneyland, but it's the pathway between Fantasyland to Frontierland, and I'm sure when Star Wars Land opens, this back path will be quite busy. But if you kind of want to get away from the crowds on a slightly less busy walkway, this is a place to be. And I know you're probably looking at the people on this and you're saying, wow, is this not busy? Yes, this is not busy. Disneyland is mostly a non-smoking park. I often get questions about smoking areas. Can you smoke there? Yes, Disneyland does have dedicated smoking areas. I'm just passing one on my left so that if you need to puff away, you can do it, but you have to find one of these areas. And then over on my right, that's the second entrance to Star Wars Land when it opens up. I'd walk you over there, but really it is just a boring picture of what Star Wars Land is going to look like. So this is now Frontierland, and on my left is the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, one of my favorite rides at Disneyland. I would probably say my favorite roller coaster at Disneyland, well, it's only a few, but Space Mountain's probably my favorite ride, followed by Big Thunder Mountain, followed by Pirates of the Caribbean. Those are my top 3 rides in that order. Big Thunder Mountain, the roller coaster was refurbished a few years ago, and so it's not too bumpy. It's fairly smooth. It's not too scary. So, I mean, if you don't like roller coasters, you know, this one doesn't go in any loops. It doesn't go upside down. You don't get wet. So as far as roller coasters go, it is a pretty tame one. And the ride is themed pretty well. I like the theming of it. So I'm going to go over here. Let's see. We'll keep going this way. On my right is the lake. Yes, Disneyland has its own lake. Sometimes they call it a river. I call it a lake. They call it a river because there's an island in the middle of it, Mark Twain's Island, and they've got like a river boat that runs on it, and you can take canoes on the boat, so that kind of goes with their theming. And you can pick up some of the really big boats here on my right, and this little stand also sells turkey legs and chimichangas. These seem to be really 2 popular food items around the park, turkey legs and chimichangas. Turkey legs because a lot of the California fairs sell turkey legs, so that's something that Disneyland has picked up on. Kind of a neat restaurant, one that you might want to check out. On my left, it's the Golden Horseshoe. In addition to food, the Golden Horseshoe also does shows. So you can eat and see a show. So walk by, check out the show times. Try to get in there, 20 minutes before the show time so you can get your food and be seated for when the show begins. So on my right, the river or the lake, whatever you want to call it. And there's Mark Twain Island. You have to take a boat to get there. It literally is an island. This is also where they show Fantasmic. Fantasmic is Disneyland's nighttime show. I highly recommend it if you're coming to Disneyland to check out Fantasmic. The best way to do it is to do one of Disney's dining packages. They have a few restaurants that you can book like a set or fixed meal, and then you get a ticket for a reserved seating area to watch Fantasmic, which is pretty nice because it can be pretty popular and pretty busy. On my left is the entrance to the Pirates of the Caribbean. I said that was one of my top 3 rides. Today, Halloween is always a busy time in Disneyland, so the wait currently is about 30 minutes to ride the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, which I would never get in that line if it was 30 minutes. My limit to ride Pirates of the Caribbean is about 15 minutes. But I also have an annual pass to Disneyland and come here quite a bit, so my ride time wait tolerances may be shorter than yours because I can always just drive back here and come in again. One of my favorite fast casual places to eat is right here at the Royal Veranda above Pirates of the Caribbean. And at the Royal Veranda, it's this little tiny window. And from this window, you can get bowls of gumbo and clam chowder. The creamy clam chowder is $11, but my favorite is the steak gumbo, which is $11.49. Disneyland's been doing this new thing for mobile orders. So if you've got the Disneyland app and you've registered your credit card on it, you can actually order from your phone, and they'll just deliver it to you right there. So this right here is one of my favorite parts of Disneyland. This is New Orleans Square. We'll be coming up on where the Blue Bayou restaurant is up here. And this is kind of an area that is really unique to Disneyland in Anaheim. If you go to Florida, you will not find a New Orleans Square like this. And this was actually, I believe, Walt Disney's favorite. There's like this private club that you've heard of, probably, that's up here, where Disney is known to have had like his own apartment, basically, so he could stay inside the park. The gift shops here are pretty unique, and this just, it feels unlike the rest of Disneyland in this kind of much smaller New Orleans vibe. I think, you know, another thing, because it's near the Pirates of the Caribbean, it takes on a little bit of the, I don't know if I want to say the water smell from the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, but I will say the water smell from the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, which is also kind of reminiscent of New Orleans, because New Orleans has that, you know, by the water, humid in Louisiana. The other main restaurant in New Orleans Square is this one right here on my right. It also has a mint julep bar where you can get mint juleps. They're non-alcoholic beverages, but the main restaurant is called the French Market, which has pretty good food options. And on my left, you'll see another station for the Disneyland train. So if you didn't pick up the train at the beginning, you could pick up that train right here, or you could disembark here as well. Now, being that I'm here in October, as I've said a few times, on my left is the Haunted Mansion. And the Haunted Mansion, oh, this is the busiest ride for Halloween, as you could imagine, because it is haunted. So everybody wants to come in to see the Haunted Mansion. So if you are here during Halloween, you definitely want to pull a fast pass and not wait in that standby line. Today, on a Friday at 12:30, the current standby time is 1 hour, but you can come back with a fast pass at 4:30. So I think that's a pretty good deal. On my right again, you'll see that Tom Sawyer's Island, and you'll see some of the little ferries that go over to Tom Sawyer's Island. And then there's one of the big boats that they've got parked right now that would take you around this river. The Columbia is the one that is right here. And the Haunted Mansion for Halloween, it's themed after the Disney movie or the Tim Burton's movie Nightmare Before Christmas. So it has that whole theming throughout Halloween and Christmas as well. There's a neat little snack stand out in front of it on my right that says "Come ashore for dockside dining." The Harbor Galley. And they have lobster rolls, which are actually pretty decent and tasty little lobster rolls. I mean, they're not cheap because, frankly, nothing at Disneyland is cheap. But if you like lobster and you want something that's kind of unique, not a hot dog, not a turkey leg, then check that out. And on my left, you might have just heard a scream. This is Splash Mountain. Splash Mountain. Disneyland's longest drop. It's a water ride that you ride in a log, and those logs come down. It's a long way down. It will get you wet, so make sure you're good with getting wet, and that you do that on a hot day or just about when you are going to leave. And right here is a Tom Sawyer Island lookout point. You can see a little bit more of that Tom Sawyer Island in the background. If you keep going down this hill, you'll get to, well, there's the Hungry Bear restaurant. You can see that's one of the restaurants that does the Phantasmic dinner packages. There's the Winnie the Pooh ride and a Winnie the Pooh gift shop, which is cool. And then way off in the distance, if you look directly opposite from me and you see some of the construction back there, that's where the new Star Wars land is going to be. Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more about Disneyland, you want to see more 360 walking tours, you'll find links in the description below. Either find the one that says tips, that'll be a 2D video just telling you more things to know about coming to Disneyland, or if you want to see inside California Adventure or Downtown Disney, I've got 360-degree walking tours on those. You'll find those in the description as well. All right, thanks for watching, and I won't say goodbye because I'll see you in the next video.